Welcome back. You're watching CrossRoads with Neethan and Shan. We're talking about the future of Bharathanatyam with three amazing dance teachers, the second generation teachers in Canada. So let's start talking about a bit of a comparison between the times that you were young students, maybe in your early teens or even younger, to now that you're teachers. What are some similarities and differences?
Well, I'm only 18.
Yeah,
so
well,
I'm
you're still in the teens. That's why I said early teens to you.
But growing up, I wasn't teaching maybe when I was 5 or 6, but I saw my mom teach students as well. I feel like there are no similarities to the youngsters that come and learn now and before. I mean, now everything is so technology based. If 10 years ago, if my mom did and usually that's a traditional way of teaching Bharathanatyam. You sit down and you teach. Usually teachers don't get up and chase after the students and actually perform with them. Students were very observant, and I guess that was also the lifestyle that the parents inputted. Even as you were saying before, they weren't as financially stable. They were all very steady-minded with one goal. So students would go to 2-3 classes and school. So they were very focused in whatever they did, and with minimal movement, they were able to observe. And if anything, if you tell a student to do this, you have to be like, okay, take your hand up, look here, bend this way, sit more, and you have to repeat it like 100 times for them to do it once. 10 years ago, if you did this, every student will try their maximum, to do their best, and then there would be minimal corrections. Today, I wouldn't say it's a negative thing. I guess it's more of a learning experience. Now, you have to have more variation with examples. I mean, today kids play with iPads and they have so many different games. They listen to so many different types of music. Before it wasn't like that. You just go outside and you play. So when you compare it to that kind of lifestyle that they have now, you have to give so many different examples. Now, if you're saying a storyline about Krishna, they're like, who's Krishna? So you have to, show a statue or maybe show them a video clip or something to get them interested, or a poster, act a scene out, and then you have to get up and show them. If you sit down, they're not going to be interested either. Teachers now, I guess, they have to be physically able to teach. It wasn't the case before, but now, because of the lifestyle of the children, it's like that.
I mean, that also talks to kind of teachers also having to constantly adapt their teaching strategies, right? With generation. Now, I think previously, many years back, generation meant parents and then children, right? Now generation means 10 years, right? Every 10 years is categorized as a different generation. So what's your take in terms of the number of students that you see, and also when you were a student and when you were?
No, I think one thing that has stayed the same is actually with our generation, the way we teach, what's taught has stayed authentic, if for lack of a better word. So the dancers are still getting strong foundation from the second generation teachers, if you want to say that. But just about what Aishwarya just mentioned, students having a lot on their plate is very true. Again, we grew up having 1-2 extracurricular activities at max, and we had lots of time to practice at home. And for an intricate art form like Bharathanatyam, you do need to do extra work. Like once a week classes is not enough. I think parents are wanting to expose their kids to a lot of different activities, sports, arts, Western, Eastern, everything, which is great. But what happens is we're creating jack of all trades, master of none. The kids are not having enough time to focus on anything, actually put time to practice it, to master anything. And the beginning, maybe it's okay, but at an intermediate level, in terms of Bharathanatyam, you just can't do that if you want to continue. That I'm seeing definitely as well. And it's the kids with less things to focus on and more time. It's just sad because some students who have potential, who have a lot of talent, don't perform their best just because they don't have the time required to focus.
And I think it's a good thing that parents are exposing their children to a diverse option.
Absolutely, yes.
Because then they could see what the individual child is getting interested in.
Yeah, but at one point,
continuing that is so much burden. And some of the grade 6, 7, 8 students, if you look at their schedule on weekends, it's much busier than some of our schedules, which is crazy. You can't have kids be programmed in such a way that they don't have their free time to develop their own personality. So from the parents' perspective too, you've seen parents, and your mother was actively involved as as a person. So have the parents' expectations changed between generations? When I say generation, between the time you were a student to the parents that you see, is it a focus on culture or status, or what is it that driving people to get their kids involved?
It's a whole mix of everything, because first to start off with, like a child's success, it's, parents are a huge backbone for a child's success. So, by God's grace, I had that. But, parents play a huge important role from just encouraging their children to practice. And it's not just about dropping their children off to class, which I think that's, I don't know, for the students who come and learn from me, I have a lot of parents who just drop their kids off just so that they're culturally oriented, right? And to keep them culturally oriented, and not like be a star or, like a professional artist of Bharathanatyam. And so like when I see those kids who don't, they're just dropped off, and it's like, just do it for the sake of it, and the parents give their monthly fees, I see that when the children dance too, because they don't put any time towards practice, and they don't commit themselves. But then it's changed, because all the kids that have come in with that attitude where it's like the parents are like, you're forced into coming, now they enjoy it, and now all of them want to come, and like they've been with me for 8 or 9 years, and so that just, it shows that they want to do it themselves. But at the same time, it's like, my students, I tell them, you could be so much better if you guys just take 1 or 2 hours to practice every day, right? And then another thing is, like, I find the generation, so like I'm only 5 or 6 years older than my students, but my older students, but I find like the younger generation parents are letting it up to the children to decide like what they want to do, and it's like, oh, you don't want to practice, okay, don't practice, right? Whereas I was forced, regardless if it's like, Nivedha, you were dancing, and I was woken up at 5 a.m. in the morning to practice and whatnot, right? And they overstimulate the children with like, okay, ballet, hip hop class, dance, Bharathanatyam class, and the music class, and on top of that, they have their school to focus on, and it's exactly what you said. They could never be good at one thing because they're just overstimulated with 10 other things. So,
I mean, in the European sense, or in the Western, in our lifestyle in Canada, we talk about hockey moms as people. They take their mostly male children to hockey classes, and and our equivalent is basically the dance moms, right, who are actively engaged in terms of taking their kids, all the way up to planning the Bharathanatyam. But one of the things you mentioned is a thing, when we come into other things like studies, we want them to be at the top level. When it's art, are we kind of shortchanging our younger generation maybe by saying, it's a balance between putting too much pressure, but at the same time, how does just having only culture be infused through art? So bringing students to you, all three of you, and saying, teach my child dance because I want the child to be more attuned to our culture. Is that a fair expectation, to have culture just be forced to you to teach? Right?
No, one thing I tell my students is, I have a mixed group of students. They don't all speak Tamil. They're not all from either Sri Lanka or India or anything like that either. So it's I have a mixed group of students, and one thing I tell them, it's not a 2-in-1. This is only Bharathanatyam classes. So I'm not going to teach religion unless it's because it's part of a song or an item we are doing. I'm not going to teach Tamil. We're going to run classes in English, because my focus, I think most of us, we want to spread Bharathanatyam, not just keep it within our community. I mean, it's not a museum piece. We want to showcase it to other communities, and to do that, we need to we need to promote it within other communities. So I always tell them the reason you're dropping the kids off should be to learn Bharathanatyam and nothing else. And I think it's too much pressure for the dance teachers, or they're coming to class because they're learning Tamil. There are Tamil classes to go and learn that. And if I taught in Tamil, half my students can't come to class.
I try to keep it mixed because I know a lot of, because I was born and brought up here, so a lot of my parents like send their kids just to be like, look at Nivedaka, and you know, like you speak in Tamil and whatever, and so I try to like speak in Tamil for the Tamil students. I do have one student who isn't Tamil, she's Punjabi, so obviously I pick and choose between, like I alternate between speaking English and Tamil, but yeah, like for the ones who do speak Tamil, and I do expect them to be dressed properly, like because it's a form of discipline, our form of dance, right? Like, so their hair must be braided, they have to be wearing a bindi, like because I value that and I really respect it and take it as a discipline, so I expect that for any of my students
and
who are going to learn it from me.
each teacher's style of teaching as well, right? And I think there's no homogeneous way of doing things, and different students resonate to different styles as well, right? So but at the same time, I think the side effects obviously is the focus and dedication and discipline comes through the art forms, right?
Oh yes.
You don't teach that as a first thing, but to expect Tamil and culture and discipline and everything else in like 1 or 2 hour of week class is not a fair expectation, I think, right? So let's talk a bit about how performances are done on its own, not necessarily in a program of multiple agendas and things like that, right? But are there performances that are happening that are unique, specific, dedicated Bharatanatyam performances that are looking at broader topics of social issues or economic issues or women's liberation or, you know, cultural history and things like that, to take the medium of art to spread some sort of a message? Maybe I'll start with you for this one.
So I find in Toronto we don't have too many productions like that at all. I mean, just speaking within this year, I don't recall what was the. Yeah, there was one thing last week, but it was just a regular show. But it wasn't like a thematic-based production. And you know, Bharatanatyam is such a wonderful art form where you could convey meaning through, through our facial expressions and hand gestures. So we could do so much with presenting these social issues, and not just be religiously based, right? We could take issues that are happening all over the world, right? Where you know, if it's racial discrimination or like women issues, and it's just not being done. But I guess it goes back to, even if you look at I don't even remember what the last time when there was like a thematic-based production, but even if there is a thematic-based production and it's classical, like the number of people who show up, it's very, you know, it's very little. So being a dancer myself and performing, it's like, if we're not going to have people who are going to come and appreciate this, like it gives me a question: is there even any worth in terms of like, should I even put like time and effort towards doing something like this? And I think that's what I would like to see from our community, like more appreciation, more like more value towards Bharatanatyam. And so
is it that the audience is not there, or is it just that the mediums that we use to reach those audiences aren't giving us the space to reach those audiences? Like, you know what I mean, right? I'm sure there is at least 500 people who are interested in coming, but would they know it through what channels would we communicate that this is happening? Or is there a particular, you know, in India, for example, there are certain festivals that are dedicated and people know that that's happening during those times and things like that, right? Here, you know, it's at different times, it's through different teachers and so on, right? You had a production recently as well, right? So,
so we had a production in May, but it was Nala Charitam, so based on Nalavanba, and we had a good crowd who appreciated and who stayed till the end, even when we were honoring the artists. Yeah. So one response or comment I got from everyone is, because we tried to organize it in a proper manner, so we don't bore the audience, we don't keep them for 6 hours. Mm-hmm. The show started maybe 20 minutes late, mm-hmm. but we were done within 2 hours. Mm-hmm. But I thought we had a really sophisticated audience there who really appreciated it, and we got calls and good responses after that, and I think that gave a good stage to my students as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think like Menaka Thakkar, Janak Country and them have accessed the mainstream market using, you know, and we have talented pool within the Tamil community as well. They're, you know, they access also the different levels of funding to do those productions and so on, to put the investment, and their shows aren't looking for 10,000 people. It's maybe 300, maybe 500 people who are dedicated audiences, right?
Which is okay.
Yeah, which is okay. Which is what we need. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a bit about things that we can do as a community, as teachers, as parents, as students, to improve and to help extend the reach of Bharatanatyam in Canada. So stay tuned. In a few minutes we will continue.